With just one glance at a woman's chest, he accurately recited her phone number, leaving the woman startled and nervous to the point that she dropped a load of toothpicks she was holding. He took less than a second to scan the mess before confidently declaring 246 toothpicks had been dropped. Charlie, skeptical of his brother's claim, was stunned when the woman confirmed the total count was 250. There were 4 toothpicks still in her hand, thus validating his brother's assertion. Despite his brother being a prodigy, Charlie saw him as a simpleton. If it weren't for the $20 million inheritance, he wouldn't even bother interacting with his brother. After years of struggle, Charlie had built his car company and had a model-like girlfriend. Life was good. One day, when he was about to embark on a trip with his girlfriend, he received news of his father's passing. Despite the magnitude of the event, he remained nonchalant. He stood at a great distance during the funeral and was visibly disgruntled throughout. The desire for his father's large fortune was his primary motivator to return home and see his father one last time. However, upon reading the will, he was dumbfounded to find that all the money was entrusted to an unspecified beneficiary, and he was only left with an old car. Enraged and baffled, he had to explain his complex history with his father to his equally confused girlfriend. During his high school years, Charlie worked diligently to top his school academically. He pleaded with his father to let him drive his classmates for a little joyride, but was promptly refused. To retain his face in front of his friends, he stole the keys and took the car anyway. His father, aware that he was the one who took the car, falsely reported to the police that the car had been stolen. As a result, he and his friends were taken to the police station. His classmates' parents quickly ransomed their children, but Charlie was locked up for a whole week. After that incident, he ran away from home and ceased all contact with his father. This was the first time his girlfriend had heard this story. She complained that Charlie shouldn't bottle up his feelings, but he was indifferent. Right now, his primary concern was to determine the beneficiary of the trust. Charlie traced the location of the trustee through bank transactions. When he arrived, he found out it was a healthcare facility, and it appeared that most of the residents were handicapped. When Charlie approached the director about the trust, the director candidly admitted that he indeed was the trustee, thanks to his many years of friendship with Charlie's father. Regarding the beneficiary, he was unable to divulge that information, citing it was a part of his father's last wish. Unable to obtain any straightforward information, Charlie decided to leave. Just when Charlie was about to leave, he discovered that a man who initially appeared to him as simple-minded had slipped into his car, and he tried to get him out impatiently. However, the man mentioned that his father used to let him drive the car every Saturday back when the seat color was brown. Charlie was taken aback at this revelation because the man was correct. He immediately caught up with the man out of curiosity about how he knew all these details and asked about his father. To his surprise, the man could not only mention his father's name, but also their home address and even details about his mother. Seeing the truth couldn't be hidden any longer, the director confessed. The man's name was Raymond, Charlie's biological brother, and the real beneficiary of the trust. Raymond was sent to the facility 20 years ago due to his autism. The news left Charlie bewildered. He had no idea he had a brother, let alone one with special needs. It seemed like Raymond only appeared when there was an inheritance at stake. Doubting the authenticity of the claim, Charlie attempted to find evidence of the director's deception. Instead, he found a document signed by his father, confirming that Raymond truly was his brother. Considering that Raymond had no concept of money, Charlie devised a cunning plan. He decided to get Raymond to leave the place with him and somehow trick him into renouncing his $20 million inheritance. When he heard Raymond constantly mumbling about baseball, he cunningly persuaded him to go to Los Angeles to watch a baseball game. Surprisingly, Raymond, who was generally skeptical of others, agreed straight away. On the patchwork green trail, Charlie's brother, Raymond, with his head tilted peculiarly, followed him closely. Charlie hadn't grasped yet what kind of difficulties he might encounter traveling with an autistic person. That night, they checked into a luxury suite. Seeing the unfamiliar setting, Raymond instinctively wanted to return to the nursing home. Still, Charlie convinced him that the situation was all arranged by the director, to which Raymond reluctantly agreed. That's when Charlie's true woes started. Raymond began imposing nursing home routines. The bed had to be near the window. There must be books to read. Dinner was strictly at 6:30 p.m., and there needed to be a TV screening daily. For the sake of the inheritance, Charlie played along. He moved the bed near the window, handed Raymond a phone book as a faux book, ordered dinner for him while asking his girlfriend to turn on the TV. Shockingly, Raymond found the phone book just as engrossing as any other book. While deeply immersed in the phone book, Raymond noticed some strange noises and traced them into Charlie's room. Confused by Charlie and his girlfriend's activities, he decided to sit at the foot of the bed to watch TV, unintentionally giving Charlie a fright. Enraged, Charlie yelled at Raymond to get out. His girlfriend thought that Raymond came because he was probably afraid something was going to happen to Charlie, so she asked Charlie to apologize to Raymond. Instead of apologizing, Charlie shouted insults at Raymond, calling him a fool. He even turned off the room lights without regarding Raymond's feelings. Charlie's actions infuriated his girlfriend. She felt that Charlie was blinded by money and shouldn't exploit his autistic brother in such a way. This led to an argument between them, and Charlie's girlfriend prepared to leave angrily. Charlie explained that he urgently needed money because his company was on the brink of bankruptcy. He had taken out a $500,000 loan to buy several sports cars, hoping for a big windfall, but due to emission problems, the cars couldn't be driven. He hoped to use part of the inheritance to repay that debt. Disappointed by Charlie's money-centric mindset, his girlfriend hastily collected her belongings and left without looking back. Watching Raymond in bed, Charlie didn't go after her, fixated on the impending inheritance instead. It was clear that in the face of absolute interest, any relationship could face significant challenges. The next day, the two brothers went to a restaurant for a meal. Raymond only glanced at the waitress's name tag and was able to recite her phone number flawlessly. It turned out that he had an eidetic memory. He had memorized the entire phone book after just one read. Charlie thought at first that Raymond only had shorter memory prowess. However, when the waitress handed Raymond a toothpick, he quickly determined the exact number of toothpicks on the ground, just by a quick glance, which felt incredible to Charlie. Yet, he didn't think much of it. Soon after, the director from the nursing home called Charlie, hoping that he would return Raymond back. Nonetheless, Charlie said he would consider only when he had received half of the inheritance. After lunch, the two headed straight to the airport. Raymond, babbling endlessly during the drive, almost drove Charlie to his wits' end. Even while waiting at the airport, Charlie had to stay on the phone, dealing with his company matters. Charlie thought they would be back at the company within 3 hours by plane. But upon seeing the airplane, Raymond became extremely agitated. He started to recite statistics of air disasters from various airlines throughout the years, along with the specific number of fatalities in each incident, adamantly refusing to board the plane. Anxious to get back, Charlie wanted to force Raymond onto the plane. However, Raymond, who always avoided human touch, suddenly lost control of his emotions. Frightened of being taken away by the police, Charlie had no choice but to compromise. They decided to drive back on the highway instead. What was initially a 3-hour journey suddenly became a 3-day drive. But for Charlie, this was not the worst part yet. They hadn't driven far when a traffic accident caused a jam ahead. While waiting, Raymond got out of the car and started reciting statistics about highway accidents, the annual number, the specific fatalities, and no matter what Charlie said, Raymond refused to get back in the car. What followed next was a ridiculous scene. Raymond walking in the emergency lane, with Charlie slowly following behind in the car. It wasn't until late at night when they left the highway that Raymond was willing to get back in, insisting that they could never drive on the highway again. But this was not the most troublesome part for Charlie. Raymond requested that they not drive when it rained, which drove Charlie to the brink of insanity. When it came to meal times, Raymond insisted on eating specific foods, which caused Charlie to venture out in the rain to satisfy these demands. Moreover, Raymond insisted that his fish fillet must have 8 pieces. Facing pressure from the loan, he could only call and plead for a few days of grace. When the director demanded Raymond's return, he contacted his lawyer instead. Charlie planned to obtain Raymond's guardianship, which would naturally lead to possession of the entire inheritance. Finally, the weather cleared, and they could get back on the road. But other trouble soon arose. Raymond refused to wear the boxer briefs Charlie bought for him. He only wore his own named boxers and insisted they had to be purchased from a usual supermarket. Unwilling to turn back, Charlie endured Raymond's incessant talking until he could no longer tolerate it and stopped the car to vent his frustration. After his outburst, he had no choice but to return to the car. To keep his sanity intact, he decided to seek a doctor's help on managing his interactions with an autistic individual. Upon arrival at the clinic, Charlie discovered Raymond's exceptional arithmetic ability. Raymond could accurately answer complex multiplication of 3-digit numbers and calculate the square root of 4-digit numbers, down to the decimal point. Despite such impressive abilities, Raymond couldn't work out how much money remained after spending 50 cents from a dollar. Charlie realized that Raymond was not unintelligent, but lacked the ability to communicate effectively with others. Gradually, his perception of Raymond started to change. As they were passing a small town, Charlie decided to handle some company matters over the phone. However, just as he was about to dial, he discovered Raymond missing from the car. Charlie immediately abandoned his call and hurried to look for Raymond. On the other side of the road, Raymond had stopped at a red light, standing unmoving on the zebra crossing, even as drivers got out of their vehicles to urge him on. Fortunately, Charlie arrived in time and patiently guided him from the middle of the road. During another phone call on the road, Charlie, hoping to prevent Raymond from getting lost again, confined both of them in a phone booth. In protest of the confined space, Raymond turned his back to Charlie and passed gas. The smell was not just offensive, but also eye-watering. However, this time, Charlie didn't get angry. Upon successfully completing his call, Raymond started voicing his insistence on watching his favorite program, The People's Court, which was about to start in less than 10 minutes. Rather than shouting, Charlie hurriedly came up with a plan. As golden sunlight filtered through the thick clouds and showered the land, Charlie brought Raymond to a farmhouse. To gain access to a television, Charlie pretended to be a network staff member making house calls. However, as soon as the hostess noticed Raymond's unusual behavior, she promptly shut the door. With the show about to start, a frantic Raymond began shouting outside the window. Having no choice, Charlie divulged the true reason. If Raymond couldn't watch television, he would remain agitated and might even urinate on their doorstep. Wanting to avoid unnecessary trouble, the hostess reluctantly agreed. Subsequently, the entire family accompanied Raymond in watching his favorite show. Gradually, Charlie accepted his seemingly foolish brother. They didn't hit the road again until sunset, when the sky was painted red. That night, they checked into a motel. As Charlie helped Raymond brush his teeth, Raymond unexpectedly began to talk about the Rain Man.
Yeah, funny Rain Man, funny teeth.
Shocking Charlie. When Charlie was little and upset, a Rain Man would come to him sing. But after he grew up, the Rain Man vanished, and he had always thought that Rain Man was a figment of his imagination.
You're the Rain Man?
However, Raymond then produced a yellowed old photograph featuring himself and Charlie as a child. The Rain Man in his memories was none other than the man standing before him. Raymond had been the Rain Man, the figure from his childhood who used to play and sing with him. And Rain Man was Charlie's mispronunciation of his brother's name, Raymond. He couldn't understand why their father would send Raymond away. Feeling guilty, Charlie decided to help Raymond by running some hot water for a bath. But as soon as Charlie turned on the faucet, Raymond screamed loudly and started hitting his head with his hands. Charlie hurriedly switched off the water. When Charlie asked his brother what was wrong, all he got was a repeated sentence from Raymond: "Hot water will scald the baby. Hot water will scald the baby." Only calming down when Charlie assured him no harm was done. Raymond, who seldom made physical contact, gave Charlie's head a light pat and muttered that one should not hurt his brother. It dawned on Charlie then. He had indeed scalded himself with hot water as a child. Raymond, wanting to help, was wrongly accused of causing harm and was sent away to an institution, a purgatory that lasted for 20 years. Now, Charlie understood why Raymond was willing to follow so readily. He was not really foolish. He recognized that his brother needed protection. Despite the terror of strange environments, Raymond remained steadfast. Charlie couldn't sleep that night, realizing that the familial bonds he craved had always been nearby, and that even his despised father had been protecting him. His vision had been clouded by hate. With newfound clarity, Charlie called his girlfriend to apologize. The next day, they hit the road again. This time, Charlie really wanted to take his brother to a baseball game. The beautiful roadside views stretched before them, and the gap between the brothers steadily closed. To prevent Raymond from missing his daily TV shows, even though this meant Charlie couldn't afford his meals, he spent hundreds of dollars to buy a small TV for Raymond. Fearful of Raymond getting sunburned, he would personally apply sunscreen on his brother. The tranquility was fleeting. A distressing call from the debt collectors brought news that his company had gone bankrupt. All of Charlie's sports cars had been seized, and he was $500,000 in debt. All he could do was vent his rage into the open air.
Son of a bitch!
That night, they passed through Las Vegas. The vibrant neon lights were in stark contrast to their penniless state. The following day, Charlie took Raymond to a restaurant, where Raymond once again displayed his phenomenal memory. He casually browsed over the song list on the table, and when a song played in the restaurant, he could accurately recite the order of the song list. Recalling Raymond's ability to count toothpicks and reel off phone directories, a daring idea sprouted in Charlie's mind. To test his hunch, he bought a few decks of playing cards. He swiftly discarded a portion of the hand, and Raymond was able to precisely identify the cards remaining. Seeing this, the prospect of wealth dawned on Charlie. He floored it, heading straight for Las Vegas. The sparse meadows, framed by the blue sky and white clouds, seemed serene and beautiful. They say clothes make the man, and a saddle makes the horse. In order to present themselves more formally, Charlie pawned his only valuable item, a gold watch, and had expensive suits tailored for the two of them. They even had a trim at the barbershop before their spectacular entrance into the dazzling world of gambling. Aiming for a big win, they headed straight for the table with the highest odds. Relying on Raymond's superior memory, they hit every bet and remained undefeated. Before long, the mountain of chips not only drew a large crowd of onlookers, but also caught the attention of the casino owner. He suspected that Charlie and Raymond were cheating, as no one could possibly memorize a six-deck shoe. However, after reviewing the surveillance footage dozens of times, there was no evidence of any sort of trickery. As they were immersed in their winning streak, Raymond got distracted by a roulette wheel nearby. He kept mumbling 20, so assuming he had the same understanding of this game, Charlie placed a $20,000 bet. Unfortunately, they lost it all at once. However, by then, they had already accumulated almost $600,000. Not only could they repay the $500,000 debt, but they could also redeem the pawned gold watch. To their surprise, not only was Raymond intellectually sharp that night, he also began to show signs of emotional intelligence. While Charlie was in the bathroom, Raymond struck up a conversation with a blonde. She was curious about the strategy they used to win so consistently. Raymond simply replied, "We're card counting." As she had an errand to run, the woman proposed they meet later at 10 p.m. for a dance. Charlie was thrilled by Raymond's new sociability and was glad to see such substantial changes in him. That night, they stayed in the presidential suite of the casino. Charlie made sure Raymond's bed was positioned next to the window for his comfort. Wanting Raymond to have a pleasant date, he not only gave him numerous dating tips but also took on the role of his dance instructor. With the mellifluous music filling the room, the brothers moved along rhythmically by the window. In that moment, not only were they physically connecting, but their hearts were also gradually opening to each other. Following the end of the dance, Charlie, desiring to embrace his brother,
I just wanted to give you a hug, Ray.
was met with Raymond's screams as he unintentionally violated Raymond's boundaries regarding physical contact. Just when Charlie felt disheartened, his estranged girlfriend resurfaced. Seeing how much Charlie had changed, she decided to forgive him. The appointed time quickly came around. However, instead of the woman, the casino owner appeared. It turned out that the woman had been sent by the owner to investigate them. Once he learned about their exceptional memory skills, he had them blacklisted from all the casinos in the city. The next day, in an effort to jog Raymond's memory of the past, they had Raymond take the wheel a few times around the fountain square in front of the hotel. Even though he wasn't a proficient driver and occasionally hit the curb, it didn't dampen their high spirits. Returning to Los Angeles, they moved into Charlie's house. Charlie was still planning to secure guardianship over his brother, but his motivations have significantly shifted. Instead of Raymond's $20 million estate, all he wants now is to stay by Raymond's side. That night, the director of the institution where Raymond had been living arrived at Charlie's home. He had already submitted Raymond's case to the evaluation center, arguing that Raymond lacked the competency to live independently. This indicated that Charlie was sure to lose in court. The director presented a check for $1.5 million, hoping that this would be enough to persuade Charlie to return Raymond safely to the institution. The director argued that Raymond would receive better care at the institution. Even if Charlie were to win the court case, he possibly wouldn't get any money. But by now, Charlie could care less about the money. Although he had only spent a few days with Raymond, it was enough to fill the void of missing family affection over the past decades. All these years, he had prioritized money over everything else, but these few days made him realize that relations were the most precious treasures in life. He handed the check back to the director and left without looking back. The next day, Raymond, being an early riser, wanted to prepare something to eat but didn't know how to operate the microwave. Eventually, it malfunctioned and produced thick smoke, triggering the smoke detector. This made Raymond panic. He started hitting his head against the door, wanting to get out, and called for the institution nurse, ignoring Charlie's attempts to calm him down. Charlie took a stick and smashed the detector, finally quieting Raymond down. Once things calmed down, Charlie began to doubt whether he could really take good care of Raymond. Uncertain whether fighting for Raymond's custody was right or wrong, they went down to have their breakfast. Charlie would meticulously prepare everything Raymond needed, tell jokes in a way Raymond enjoyed, and even tenderly take care of him when they got out of the car. Soon enough, the assessment doctor, the institution director, and the two brothers gathered together for the meeting. The doctor was familiar with Raymond's character and was more inclined to have Raymond return to the institution. Hence, he asked a series of pointed questions. Did you hurt your brother? Did you take him from the institution without permission? Did you demand $10 million from the director in exchange? And do you have the professional knowledge and skills to take care of your brother? Charlie was momentarily speechless. Seeing the momentum shifting towards the director's favor, Charlie expressed his inner thoughts. I admittedly planned to use my brother for monetary gains and even hurt him during the journey. Yet, after spending time together, I realized my mistakes. I plan to devote the rest of my life to taking care of him and making amends. Our mother passed away early, and I've misunderstood our father for years, failing to fulfill my duties as a son before his passing. I also misunderstood Raymond, who is now my only family in the world. Why do you insist on taking him away from me? His heartfelt words left a deep impression. The doctor turned to Raymond for his opinion. Yet, regardless of the question, whether he preferred living with his younger brother or returning to the institution with the director, Raymond's reply every time was, okay. He felt that both sides were his family and didn't want to part with either. However, Raymond had to make a choice. The doctor became impatient and kept pressing him to decide. Seeing Raymond becoming anxious, Charlie worried that Raymond might have another episode if questioned further. He quickly stopped the doctor. Enough. I'll let him return with you, all right? Wanting to protect Raymond from further distress, Charlie chose to compromise. Taking advantage of the director and the doctor's absence, Charlie comforted his brother. No one will question you anymore. You'll return to live with the director. I am grateful to have you as my brother, he said. Raymond, who usually avoided physical contact, leaned his head against Charlie's, his eyes welling up with tears. At that moment, to Raymond, Charlie was the closest person to him. The day of parting soon arrived, and Charlie prepared many of Raymond's favorite foods. Although he didn't gain guardianship, he retained visitation rights. Charlie promised to visit Raymond in 2 weeks, and upon hearing this, Raymond immediately calculated the exact time, down to the hour, minute, and second. He expressed his feelings and care through strings of numbers, counting down the time to their next meeting from the moment they parted. As he watched the train gradually move away, Charlie smiled slightly. At that moment, all regrets and resistance dissipated with the wind. Every void of familial affection had been filled. Rain Man is an emotional American film directed by Barry Levinson and starring Dustin Hoffman and Tom Cruise, released in 1988. One character is a younger brother, suspicious and hostile to the world like a hedgehog. The other is an older brother with autism, filled with a strange sense of wonder towards the world. When these two brothers, estranged but bound by blood, meet, the younger brother sheds his prickly armor, and the autistic one steps out of his room to learn about embracing others. Their mutual imperfections find redemption in each other. The film's success in touching audiences lies in its ability to portray the subtleties of familial love in such a resounding manner. The Rain Man, a character from childhood fantasies, grows up to feel the longing for family bond. When familial love flows in one's heart, there's a profound sense of spiritual fulfillment. Throughout the warm hues of the film, the bond of brotherhood gradually melts Charlie's hardened heart. The brothers understand each other. Charlie comes to accommodate Raymond's habits, and Raymond slowly accepts Charlie's care. In the film's final scene, while Raymond seems indifferent during their parting, we know there must be turbulence in his heart. It is at this moment that Charlie realizes how deeply his father loved him. The heritage his father left him is far more precious than $20 million. His father knew that once Charlie found Raymond, he would understand that money can run out, but familial love is the precious wealth that accompanies one for a lifetime.